What's up, guys? My name is Not Explosive, and today we are going to grab ourselves a hot chocolate, a Snuggie, and warm up by the fire to learn to read. Are we going to read an adventure, a mystery, a classic? Nah, boys, that's not what we're reading. And also, of course, the small amount of girls that watch my videos. Today, we're going to learn how to read your opponent's back row and avoid falling into the traps like Windstorm and enemy controller that can cause you to lose the game. So first up, you have to actually know what your opponents play, what they're going to play, what they're fielding, and this is different for decks in gold, in platinum, in legend, etc. This will help you limit the list of cards that will be played against you down a little bit. For example, at the time of recording, you can expect to see Mako water decks in high gold and low platinum. Common lists will include cards like Fish Depth Charge and Michizure. Nature lists, on the other hand, tend to run Super Rush Headlong and Windstorm. Each of these cards has specific activation conditions which have to be met in order to be activated. Mid-duel, sometimes the duel pauses a little bit, and these pauses typically occur when a monster is summoned or an attack is declared. And what these pauses are these are opportunities for your opponent to react to what you are doing. They have the option to activate cards against whatever plays you are making, and based on when these pauses occur, you can judge what cards are on board. So now let's look at some of the common cards that are played and how to read for them. First, there is Enemy Controller and Windstorm. These cards both rely on having your enemy, if you control the card, having a monster on the field. Now if your opponent has this set, you should experience a pause when you summon a monster and pauses from then on out. Next up is everyone's favorite little ball of tilt, Sphere Karibo. Now Sphere Karibo is only triggered when you declare an attack, and often players will use this as a last resort. Not always, but often. So if you're attacking directly, for example, attack with your weaker monster first to see if there's a pause, and that way you know they might have Sphere Karibo in the hand. Order to Charge, Fish Depth Charge, and Super Rush Headlong can be guessed depending on which monster your opponent has face up. Order to Charge is most common when a normal monster is face up, but depends on the deck that they are using. Fish Depth Charge uses fish as its target and therefore can be found almost exclusively in Mako water decks, and Super Rush is generic, so if the above conditions aren't met, then that pause is definitely Super Rush Headlong. Champion's Vigilance has to be one of the most annoying cards in the game because it's just a say no card. You have a spell, it can negate that, you have a trap, it can negate that, you summon a monster, negated, but it can be easily checked. Now if your opponent has a face up 7 or higher star normal monster and there is a pause after every single card that you play, regardless of what the card actually does, most likely it's Champion's Vigilance. Finally, let's talk about one of the most terrifying cards in the game, Mirror Wall. Mirror Wall is kind of hard to judge because it activates on all phases, so it's really hard to read. But a dead giveaway that most players make is if your opponent plays a low attack monster in attack position and sets one card face down and then you start to feel the pauses, most likely that's Mirror Wall. Now, you want to combine the knowledge of which cards activate when with the type of decks that you expect to face in your current tier, whether it be gold or legend. So after you do that, you should have a general knowledge of what your opponent is playing, and you should be able to play around that effectively and win more games. Now remember, as you're dueling, you're trying to guess what your opponent has in their back row, and your opponent is trying to guess what you have in your back row. So if you go into your settings, and now a picture will appear on screen of what the menu looks like. If you click this button, the option to chain to react to anything your opponent does will disappear, and so will the pauses, and this will impede your opponent from guessing what you have in your back row. But keep in mind, your opponent can also do this against you. So now you can go out and pick up more wins. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to comment anything I missed down below, and happy hunting.